Okay, so picture this, a philosopher who gets treated like an absolute rock star. Seriously, that was Herbert Marcuse in the 1960s. He wasn't on stage with a guitar, but in lecture halls, he had this kind of reverence that you usually see for, rock gods like Jagger or Dylan. So let's dive into this incredibly unlikely icon of the counterculture.
I mean, check this out. His own colleague, Marshall Berman, described him arriving at a concert. A hush just falls over the entire crowd. People literally move out of his way to let him pass. It just perfectly captures his fame, right? Here's a thinker who commanded the same awe as a pop star.
So what was the big hit single for this rock star philosopher? Well, it all kicked off with this one simple question he asked back in 1964. We were living in the most prosperous societies ever. People had cars, TVs, comfortable homes, so why had the revolutionary fire just fizzled out? Why did nobody seem to want to change things? That question is the key to his entire philosophy. And his answer, well, it came in his most famous book, One-Dimensional Man. In it, he laid out this diagnosis that our comfortable modern society wasn't really a paradise of freedom at all. It was more like a highly sophisticated, very, very comfortable cage.
And the person living inside this cage, he called them the one-dimensional man. This is someone who's so deeply plugged into the system, through all the stuff they buy and the media they consume, that they literally can't imagine a different way to live. The ability to think critically, to see a second dimension beyond what is, has just been flattened out of them. And Marcuse wasn't saying social classes had vanished. No, his point was way more subtle. It's that the things that keep the system going, our desires, what makes us happy, are now shared by everyone. We're all chasing the same stuff, we're all watching the same shows, we're all reading the same news. And this quote just gets right to the heart of the problem. Our very identities get wrapped up in the things we buy. You're not just a person anymore. You're the person who drives that specific car, who owns that brand of phone. We literally find our souls in our stuff. And when we do that, we lose any real desire to challenge the system that gives it to us.
So to really get this, you have to understand Marcuse's split between what he called true needs and false needs. True needs are the basics, right? Food, clothing, a roof over your head. But false needs? Those are the desires that society cooks up for us. The relentless need for the newest gadget, the latest fashion. They exist just to keep us working, consuming, and most importantly, totally pacified.
Now we're going to get into one of Marcuse's most wild, most counterintuitive ideas. The notion that even our freedoms, especially our new sexual freedoms, were actually just another, smarter form of control.
He had this wild term for it, repressive desublimation. Sounds complicated, right? But the idea is actually pretty straightforward, if a little shocking. He argued that the sexual revolution of the 60s wasn't actually liberating. By making pleasure easier to get, society was just giving us an outlet for all our frustrations. It creates a kind of happy consciousness, where we're all too busy having fun to bother criticizing anything. Pleasure itself became a weapon of the status quo.
There's this line from a Woody Allen film that just nails the absurdity of what Marcuse was getting at. It was basically saying that, yeah, we were having more sex, but it was the wrong kind of sex. It was disconnected from any deeper, truly liberating passion. Society was now so controlling, it was even telling us how to have an orgasm. And this numbing effect, this pacification, had seeped into everything, even art. Marcuse believed that truly great art, like a novel like Anna Karenina, used to be what he called a negation. It held up a mirror to the world and said, this is wrong. But modern art? It had become affirmation. A play like A Streetcar Named Desire might feel gritty and real, but at the end of the day, it just sells tickets. It comforts us, or it excites us. It's just another product.
Okay, so if the working class is bought off, and even our artists and our pleasures are part of the system, who on earth is left to light the spark? I mean, where does change even come from at this point?
Marcuse was pretty blunt about it. The old agent of change that Marx had talked about, they were gone. The proletariat, with their new cars and TVs, were way too comfortable to dig anyone's grave. He had to find a completely new revolutionary force.
And he found his answer on the absolute margins of society. He looked to the people who hadn't been swallowed up by the consumer dream. The outcasts, the persecuted minorities, the unemployed. These were the people who, because they were on the outside looking in, hadn't received society's kiss of death. They still had the power to just say no.
And you know what? His ideas didn't just stay on the page. They found this incredible, real-world champion in his most famous student, the one and only Angela Davis. For her, this wasn't just some abstract theory. It was a blueprint for action.
I mean, just look at her life's journey. It's like a revolutionary epic. She goes from being his student to a member of the Black Panthers to ending up on the FBI's 10 most wanted list and then becoming this towering figure in academia fighting the prison industrial complex. She was the living, breathing embodiment of his philosophy.
But, and this is a big but, it's not all hero worship. Marcuse's legacy is, well, it's complicated. For every student who saw him as a prophet, there was someone else who saw him as a profound, out-of-touch elitist. And that same guy who described his rock star entrance, Marshall Berman, he also delivered this absolutely blistering critique. He argued that Marcuse's theory showed this deep contempt for regular people, basically viewing them as mindless puppets whose deepest desires weren't even their own.
And then there's this other, just brilliant knockout criticism from the philosopher Elazadar MacIntyre. It's a classic paradox. Think about it. If society is truly so one-dimensional that it crushes all real opposition, then how in the world could a book like One-Dimensional Man even get written, let alone become a massive bestseller? The book's own success seems to completely undermine its central point.
And maybe the most telling contradiction of all was Marcuse the man. His own stepson, who was a radical activist, described their home as very repressive. The great critic of bourgeois society insisted on a quiet, orderly, very bourgeois life for himself, putting on a jacket and tie every day to sit down and write books about revolution.
So, where does that leave us? The whole thing is packed with contradictions. And yet. In our world of targeted ads, social media echo chambers, and this endless stream of content designed to keep us comfortable, don't his warnings about a comfortable cage feel more relevant now than ever before? That's the puzzle he left for all of us.